In the previous video, we talked about how boundaries are formed and why the way you allow others to treat you ultimately shapes the quality of every relationship in your life. But today, I want to go deeper into a question that many young people carry with them throughout their years of loving, often without even realizing it. What does a healthy boundary actually look like? Because boundaries are not meant to push people away. They are not tools for control, punishment, or emotional harm. A healthy boundary is the place where you can love without losing yourself, where you feel safe, respected, and no longer have to sacrifice who you are in order to stay connected. Welcome to my channel. This is a space where I walk alongside women on the journey of building a self-directed life, one rooted in inner independence and emotional well-being. Over more than 20 years of working with young people in romantic relationships, I've come to see something very clearly. Most emotional wounds in love don't come from loving the wrong person. They come from not having boundaries with ourselves. Many people enter relationships with an unspoken belief that love requires endurance, that to be loved, you must tolerate, suppress, or give up parts of yourself to maintain connection. And this belief doesn't appear out of nowhere. It often begins very early in life, when you learned explicitly or implicitly that love was conditional, that you would be accepted only if you were compliant, understanding, or willing to place other people's needs above your own feelings. That's why every time you want to say no, every time something feels wrong and you want to stop, your nervous system reacts as if you're in danger. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, guilt and fear rise up, pushing you to pull your boundary back just to keep the relationship intact. This isn't because you're weak. It's because your body learned that losing connection felt more terrifying than losing yourself. At the deepest psychological level, healthy boundaries are not acts against others. They're acts of protection for your inner integrity. They allow you to clearly distinguish between my feelings and your feelings, my responsibility and what is not mine to carry. When you lack boundaries, you unconsciously take on other people's emotions. You begin to believe it's your job to make them happy, to keep them satisfied, to prevent the relationship from falling apart, even at the cost of your own well-being. But when you have boundaries, you understand that you have the right to feel uncomfortable, the right to name what hurts, and the right to choose how you respond if those boundaries are not respected. Boundaries are not about controlling someone else's behavior. They're about deciding what you will do to protect yourself when your limits are crossed. From a neurophysiological perspective, a relationship without boundaries keeps your body in a constant state of high alert. You're always scanning the other person's mood, weighing every word, adjusting yourself to avoid conflict. Over time, this chronic vigilance leads to exhaustion, anxiety, and a gradual disconnection from yourself until you no longer know what you truly need in the relationship. In contrast, clear boundaries signal safety and predictability to the brain. You no longer have to tense your entire system just to survive the relationship, and only then can you truly love, rather than simply trying not to be abandoned. Healthy boundaries don't make love cold. They make love less painful, less tense, and far less exhausting. There's something very important many people need to hear. When you begin to set boundaries, not everyone will be happy. Some people will respond with blame or guilt tripping. They may say you've changed, that you've become selfish, that things were fine before. But the truth is, they haven't lost you. They've only lost their access to crossing your boundaries the way they used to. Their reaction is not a measure of whether you're right or wrong. It's a mirror reflecting the role you once played in the relationship, the one who always endured, stayed silent, and hurt themselves to keep others from leaving. The clearest sign that you're building healthy boundaries isn't how eloquently you speak or how well others understand you. It's how you feel inside. You no longer have to betray yourself to keep a relationship. You can love without losing sleep, without losing peace, without losing your inner voice. You can stay without shrinking yourself, and you can leave without collapsing, because you know your worth is not determined by whether someone chooses to stay. Healthy boundaries will never drive away the right people. They only disrupt relationships that were built on silence, endurance, and one-sided sacrifice. And if a relationship can only survive when you don't voice your needs, when you're always the one who understands, gives in, and absorbs the pain, that is not love. That is an unfair contract you signed with your own suffering. Real love begins where you are allowed to be yourself, and boundaries are the doorway that brings you back to that place. When it comes to building boundaries, the first thing I want young people to understand is this: you don't have to do it perfectly. Boundaries are not a powerful declaration spoken once in a moment of clarity that suddenly changes everything. In reality, they usually begin very quietly, by allowing yourself to feel discomfort without immediately dismissing it, by pausing before defaulting to old patterns of silence, endurance, or people-pleasing. Many people criticize themselves for not being able to set boundaries right away, but the truth is, you can't dismantle a survival mechanism that's been built over years with sheer willpower. What you need first isn't to be stronger, it's to feel safer within yourself. Building boundaries starts with learning to listen to the body's subtle signals. Tightness in the chest, fatigue, restlessness, or the urge to withdraw are all signs that one of your limits is being touched. Ignoring these signals isn't just ignoring emotions, it's ignoring yourself. A healthy boundary doesn't always need to be spoken with firm words. Sometimes it's simply allowing yourself to stop, without further explanation, without trying to justify your pain so others will understand. In the early stages, guilt often shows up when you set boundaries. That guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It's the residue of an old belief that your value lies in being easy, agreeable, and emotionally convenient for others. When you begin to step out of that role, the brain tries to pull you back into familiar territory. So instead of blaming yourself for feeling guilty, see it as a sign that you're learning a new way of loving, one that doesn't require self-betrayal. Another crucial part of this process is understanding that you don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need enough reasons, enough evidence, or enough pain to earn the right to say no. Feeling uncomfortable is reason enough. When you constantly explain yourself, you're unconsciously handing over authority over your safety to someone else. A boundary is only truly a boundary when you trust that your feelings matter, even if the other person disagrees or doesn't understand. And be prepared. Not everyone will walk alongside the new version of you. Some relationships will change. Some people will leave, not because you've become harder to love, but because the relationship was built on your self-sacrifice. Losing those relationships can hurt deeply, but the cost of having no boundaries is far greater, slowly losing yourself while still staying. Finally, remember this: boundaries are not a destination. They are an ongoing process of adjustment. There will be times you speak too late, times you say too much, and times you fall back into silence. All of it is part of learning how to stay connected to yourself. What matters isn't how many times you get it right, but whether you return to listening to yourself. Because when you feel safe within yourself, boundaries stop being weapons and become a gentle way of protecting your heart in love. If, while listening to this video, there was a moment where you saw yourself, where you remembered the times you stayed silent, blamed yourself, or remained too long in a relationship that hurt, allow yourself to pause. You don't have to change everything today. Just begin by listening to your emotions a little more honestly. And if these words resonated with you, feel free to leave a comment or share this video with someone you believe also needs to hear this.